then we have the we have to execute the test cases which are available on your module. Okay. So test execution, you're going to do automation script creation, if available though, if you require automation, if available. So, and again, we're going to do cross-platform testing. Can someone remember what it calls platform testing? I explained that in our demo class. Cross-platform testing. If you remember what you understand by cross-platform testing, we discussed during the demo class. That is the cross testing means we have to test it in we have to test it in Windows, in different platforms. We have Mac, we have Windows, we have Linux. So that is what the cross-platform testing entails. We're going to test it in Windows, we're going to test it in Mac operating system, Linux operating system. If it's available on the mobile phone, okay, because in your mobile phone, you also have your different version of it, okay? So we have your iPhone, we have your Android. So if available on the mobile phone, you have to test it there. The Android, the iPhone, and different platform you have. So that's what I mean by cross-platform testing. So you will also be doing the bug tracking. These are one of our roles of responsibility. Also, we're doing this our responsibility in our team in this SDLC. We'll be doing kind of a bug tracking. Bug tracking means you will be log your bug, and then when it gets rectified, okay, maybe find a bug that in this application, this thing is not logging in. It's giving kind of bug. You know what bug is, right? So when it gets rectified, then if the bug is sent to the developer to fix it, that means it gets rectified. So when it gets rectified, you retest it again, because you can't just believe that it's already been solved and being rectified by the developer, which you said why you raise the particular bug. So you're going to retest it, then you will provide the closure of it. How to log in a bug, we will discuss when we start with Jira. That's one of those bug tracking tools. I don't know if Nika have had something like this. Jira Jira tool is a bug tracking tool. That's what you use to log in your bugs in your organizations. Some has Bugzilla, some uses Jira as a bug management tool, ALM, all those stuff like that. So you will log with your bug using this particular jobs called Jira. So how to do that? We will start that with when we start our Jira class. Okay. Then enhancement is going to be one of the roles too. And enhancement, which are coming in the system. Okay. Anything coming into the system that we will do during our execution phase. That will be by enhancement. Okay. So then we do the closure of that particular testing. All right. In our test closure report, I told you about test report, which is a test matrix, right? You remember the difference between test matrix and test requirement feasibility matrix? There are two different things, all right? Though the name sounds like, but it's two different. I told you about in last class. And then the test report you're going to do during this test closure phase as your roles and responsibility in the SDLC. Then we'll be providing the test cycle closure. Test report will be there. Then we do automation report will be there. Bug disclosure will be there. UAT responsibility will be there. Okay. This UAT means user acceptance testing. Okay. This also will be there. All right. So you will provide and also performance testing you are going to provide. Performance testing, if applicable, you will do that also. Okay, so these are when you're doing your test closure as a responsibility in the SDLC. But one thing you should understand is that you see this automation report and performance testing. You will do on basis of clients, okay? On the client basis, if based on client requirement, okay? So all depends on what client is asking from the testing team. You can add a lot of things in your test closure. Like in your test report, you will add your test matrix, your requirement traceability is also provided. RTM is what has already been created from initial phase of that's your software development, and it is ends during your test closure. You provide all these things. So this automation report and performance testing report, this is done in if client requires that. So you have to provide that. If automation is required in this particular testing and performance testing required, you have to provide that to the clients. It is based on client requirements. So it's not necessary, but it's based on client requirements. If you guys did that, you have to provide all those in your test closure reports. Okay. So that brought us to the topic we have on flat play today. What are the 7 principles of software testing? Any question in respect to what we just discussed about test closure report in STLC, your roles and responsibilities? Any question? Okay, I think take this no as an answer. So that brought us to the topic what you have today, 7 principles of what software testing. I want you to please listen to me very, very carefully because this requires you. What are these principles of software testing? You need to know. 7 principles of software testing involves number 1. Can you all read it from 1 to 7?
Testing is context dependent.
Number 2.
Number 2, exhaustive testing is not possible. Early testing is always preferred. Defect clustering. Number 5, pesticide paradox. Number 6, testing shows presence of defect. And 7, absence of error.
Is
Absence of errors is fallacy.
fallacy. So we take each and every one after the other to make our concept clear, because each and every one is very important to make your concept very clear when it comes to testing principles. Okay. Number 1, say context dependent. What is context? What is that context dependent? What is context? What do you mean by context? Context. What is meaning of context dependent? What is context? Let's forget about dependent. What is context? Your English term.
Is it like what it's pertaining to? What testing is pertaining to? What is constituted or something like?
Yeah. Context is right. Say is the circumstance that form the settings for an event. If you want to put an English term, statement or idea. Okay. So testing is context dependent. What this means is that in each context you are testing your application. That is very, very important. What context you are testing that your particular application is very, very important to test it correctly. If you know the context of what you are testing, you're able to test it very properly. Like suppose, let's say the example of your application, we should work on, maybe that application should work on, let me say, it should work on 5G. We're using 4G to test that particular application. But that application should work on 5G, which is no, we are in the model of 5G generation right now, right? But before it was formerly 4G. But this application should work perfectly with 4G. Yes, it should work perfectly with 4G. Right now we're in 5G, okay? So this application should work perfectly with 4G. So, but you are testing with the 5G application, 5G SIM, maybe your mobile phone. You are testing with 5G SIM, internet connection. Then what will happen? Will your testing result be correct?
I mean, it's not supposed to be. It might be, but it's not going to give you the full results that you're looking
Results you
for.
want to, because it
I
will
think,
work on 4G perfectly.
yeah, it's not going to be perfect.
So testing is very, very context dependent. First, what comes most is what is the context of this application. Okay. Like in your banking domain and that of an e-commerce application. We are talking about the loan process. We are doing your testing. The context of that is very different from the context of testing any e-commerce application. All right. So that context is different from any e-commerce application. All the banking application and everything has a lot of revenue aligned to it. Respect to that of, if you have to compare that with that of an e-commerce application. The banking application has everything, the loan process and everything. It has every features aligned to that banking application. But the kind of e-commerce application has another kind of financial aspect of it, marketing aspect of it, aligned to that particular domain. So testing is context dependent. You have to know the context of where your testing is have to take place. So context is in each and every kind of domain is very different. So testing is context dependent. You need to understand the context. If you don't know the context of everything, of every application, what is the context of the functional requirements you have on your plate, then you cannot be a good tester. So every application requires an approach. Yeah, it has it. Every application has is every application has a different approach. Okay, it's very, very important. You have to approach it in its own kind. So every application requires different approach. What approach requires in the banking is different from that in the e-commerce application. This is different from that of us e-commerce application. So every application, you need to understand the context of what you are testing. So it is context dependent. That's one of the first principle of software testing. You cannot test same with the same kind of approach. You cannot. Banking is different from e-commerce, so different approach. And again, one thing you need to understand when it comes to context dependent is what we call type of testing needed. It's a type of testing needed. What do I mean by that? How this context is going to define what kind of testing I will do. If we have any application that keeps on changing from, for instance, like type of testing needed, what context we define what type of testing you need. Okay. So like if I have something like Oh, sorry, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
was so the one is context dependent. Our context different approach, then another one is type of testing needed. Okay, so if I how these contents we define the type of testing needed. Like for instance, if I have something, or this, if I have something like a login box, right? Can you see my screen here? Oh, this cannot share. Can you? What can you see on the screen? It's not visible.
Seeing the downloads.
So download, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me. Where's my? It's okay. Can you see this print work here? Hey, Brian, can you see the screen?
I can see the screen.
What do you see on the screen?
I just saw some colorations, then username, password.
Okay, this is what I want to say. Okay, like you log your login screen now, our
Yeah,
contents is
yeah.
going to define your type of testing needed. Like you come into your web page now. Okay, sometimes you might see it up here. Sometime tomorrow you see it here. On Friday, it goes, the developer puts it here. And again, on Monday, come again this here. Tuesday, it was here on Monday, up where user can able to sign it. But this a little bit down, a little bit here to sign it. So our content is going to define this kind of type of testing needed. In this kind of in this kind on this page, yeah, in this the UI keeps on changing. What I mean by UI is user interface.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what user can be able to see, make use of the functionality, type in the username and password and login. So that's what we call the UI, the user interface. So this year, the box keeps on changing, positioned on the web page. The UI keeps on changing. So for that application, were you going to do automation testing for this type of or for this type of web page? Automation testing is like you have to automate when it comes to work, you automate it, you just run your automation script and all the 1,000 test cases, everything we just run exhibiting each other just like that. So if we do automation testing, it is not going to provide any good output. That's why manual testing is there. Okay, because every day the UI keep on changing sometimes, most of the time. The approach using testing the e-commerce application, the approach using testing the banking application, they are different. So now our contents define the type of testing you should do because e-commerce is is an ever evolving application. Like people sales are going on, things are happening. They keep on introducing a lot of sales, a lot of things, a lot of product that's coming in. So they keep on adding, they keep on changing all these things. So you're going to do automation for this. Automation is running everything at once. But manual test, you have to do manual testing of their particular application and check it manually. Let me log in into this thing and see if this is still going to work. I don't want to just run automation all the application at a go. So if you are to do automation testing, it's not going to provide any good output. We cannot be doing automation testing for this kind of application. So this what I mean by type of testing needed. Okay, like when I was talking about the RTM, then I told you about 1,000 test cases. As a bit out of 1,000, out of 2,000 test cases, we were able to get execute 1,950 test cases. If you remember, Just remember them?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now, in illustrating this type of testing needed, again, is that during your test planning, you can see that your banking application, your e-commerce application, thousands of users can hit that particular domain at a time. Everybody's logging into facebook.com, TikTok, and all those things. So, type of testing needed. Are we going to need, when you're doing your test planning, then you as a QA, you're going to ask your, whoever your test lead, your test manager, okay, or the business people, that the way actually needs PT. In the IT industry, when you said, are we going to do PT? PT means performance testing, okay? When I was doing the demo class about software testing, I was in the initial phase of our class, I was talking about, I gave you in a high level what performance testing is, okay? So that's why your role as a QA, you ask the business people in your that large meeting you guys are going to have when they're bringing a lot of application into this application for you guys to start building this application, all those stuff. You ask this question that this PT needed. When I say PT needed, that means you're asking of if performance testing is needed. In that case, when I say type of testing needed in that scenario is that because this TikTok, this Facebook, this Chase Bank application, you see, we have different customers, many. They're going to hit that particular application. You might be like 1,000 people are going to hit this particular application at a time. So that means we need PT, performance testing. But the client will tell you, the business people will tell you, no, 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 we don't need PT, don't need to do performance testing on this application because you just need only 100 people, maybe in our banking application to introduce to our customers. You just need this application want to build in, want to create in our banking domain is that you just need only 100 people. It's just 100 people that are going to apply for this loan. Okay. When I was telling you about the loan process and all those stuff like that, that this particular user should be able to, I was trying to illustrate the RTM, if you guys remember the last class we did. So if it's 100 people that are going to use that application, then you don't require PT. Because performance testing is to see how your application is going to hold that traffic. So performance testing is under particular scenario to know about performance testing. Okay, database testing, performance testing, all those stuff like that. So it's required. If performance testing is required, then because it's a huge application. But in the process that it's only we want to introduce this loan process in our banking application, and the loan process is going to be like 100 people are going to use this application. So we don't need PT. So PT is not needed. That's why I declare content dependent. Why content dependent defines type of testing needed. Okay? Ninka, have the question? Anyone? One of the first principle of software testing.
So I want to ask concerning the contents dependent. With respect, is it we use automation testing if the application is going to be evolving?
Yes, if they need automation, if they need automation
evolving
testing, if it's needed. That's
If
what I showed you about roles and responsibility. If automation is needed in this particular domain, we need to do automate. When you're doing your test planning, I told you about test planning.
Yeah.
Then 5 people are going to do automation, 6 people are going to do manual testing. But if you are doing manual testing of this particular thing, okay? So if you are saying context dependent, when you talk about automation, is not because in automation, I know you don't have much idea about automation, but let me tell you a high level. Automation is running everything. They go. You are creating a test script. You just need Selenium to just run this app. You don't need to do no manual intervention. But since the UI keep on changing, you need to test it manually. what you are studying now is how to be a manual QA analyst. Okay, it's QA analyst. You do manual testing. You not do automation. So in this field, you don't need any technical know-how to perform any automation, to do any because you need all those kind of commands and all those languages. So in your team, or even when you are doing automation or whatever it is, when you have a scenario where a UI keep on changing, then you don't need to do automation because you are doing automation, you are running everything. You're not checking everything, you're just running everything at a go. So because more and more builds are coming in, so you have to test those one manually and see that it's working fine. Okay, so if it's working fine, then you can then run your automation. But when the UI is changing, do your manual test of it, fail it and see. Okay, input your test data and rest of them. That's when it's what the first piece called software testing is saying. Testing is contents depending. You should know the context of what you are testing and type of testing that is involved. Okay. Other one is exhaustive testing is not possible. Exhaustive testing is not possible. What is exhaustive? That's what you can use your smartphone. What does it in your English word? What do you say about what the meaning of exhaustive?
You've used everything possible. Nothing, no other option, no other solution.
Okay. Anyone?
That's using and testing all possible scenarios or input combinations. You are trying to use all the methods to test all the scenarios or cases, which is not possible because of time, because of cost, because of submission of the projects.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Exhaustive testing, it means endless. That's that word, endless. Okay. Testing is endless. We can't test everything, the whole thing. That's at that particular point in time. It's endless. So anything which is endless is not possible. That's why I say exhaustive testing is not possible. Say you will test each and every application from top to bottom. That is not possibility. You can keep on testing it, but it will never end. That means say testing is infinite. Right? So for any application, exhaustive testing is not possible. You need to understand what you have to test and how to prioritize, okay? How to prioritize your testing. Testing is infinite. So on the basis of risk assessment, you have to leave some kind of testing. Okay? Like, have you ever go to your Google page and see something like terms and condition?
Mm-hmm.
Like you go to your Google here, google.com, you can see your terms and condition right here. This terms and condition, right?
Yeah.
So have you ever come here and click privacy, terms and condition and go sharing information, keep information? So this is not very, very necessary for the clients. Because when the client comes into this particular, they type here, this is what they search for. So want to search for one particular functionality, or want to take a picture of this. So that's why I said on the basis of what the risk assessment, you have to do the risk assessment. What the risk assessment is saying is that on the basis of risk assessment is that you have to see how these users, what impact this particular functionality going to have an impact on the client. Okay, so you just have to do the risk assessment of it, then you run your test cases, and that's it. You prioritize your test cases. Okay, so you have to do your risk assessment of it, the risk assessment of it is that how the users going to have, what impacts this particular thing I want to quickly lodge into the application server, which is what I'm leaving behind, or the one I'm about to send, because of is I can't test everything at a go. Exhaustive testing is not possible, as is second principle of software testing is saying. So I have to make the risk assessment of this particular thing. What impact is going to have to the end users? Then I'll prioritize my test cases. Prioritizing my test cases and which one is more priority. Okay, in this one I showed to you now, what do you think is more priority in this particular web page, in this particular web application? Which is more priority here? These are all web elements. Okay. I'll tell you. So which one should you have to do the risk assessment of it and send it to a production server? The search box, right?
Yes.
Google search, all these buttons and all this. So based on your risk assessment of what you have to do, exhaustive testing is infinite. So based on risk assessment of it, you have to prioritize your test cases, the most priority ones, then you hit the production server. Okay. And one of those questions I asked you last time, I said about prioritizing your tests. Most of the time you ask you that maybe your test manager said due to the time constraints, your task is very important. So suppose you have like you have only 2 hours for your application to make it to production. Those 2 hours for your application, what people are testing now, for it to make it to production. Then what kind of testing will I be doing? So therefore, prioritizing of tasks is very important. You have to prioritize those things, all those things, based on risk assessment of it. Prioritize those things, and then up it goes, hit the production server. You guys start doing testing that of and see how is it going to, what is in there in that of your terms and conditions, privacy policy, settings, and all those things. You don't know this one, how users are going to behave on this thing. But you do the risk assessment or assessment of it, then you prioritize it. This is the more priority in this application. Then you hit your production server because you have time constraints. Okay, I'll say exhaustive testing is not possible. I can't keep on testing this and this and this and this. There's no time due to time constraint. Build the wall, this assessment of what you want to test, then prioritize it, then hit the production server. Okay, so another one is early testing. Early testing is always preferable. Early testing is always preferable. Early testing means as soon as you start the testing, it's very good. As soon as you start the testing, it is very good to test early. All right. You remember when I was discussing about SDLC? If you remember when I talked about SDLC. Do you guys remember your SDLC?
Yes.
Yes, when I was talking about SDLC, SDLC, software development lifecycle, right?
Yes.
And in SDLC, the first classical model which we discussed was what? What was the first classical model we discussed in SDLC?
Waterfall.
Yes, in waterfall. We first discussed about waterfall, which is a top to bottom approach, right? Top to bottom. All right. So the first classical model we discussed was the waterfall model. There, the testing was in the very late phase. Okay. We need to do the requirement gathering. Okay. We do the requirement gathering in the waterfall. We do the designing of that particular application. Then we have to implement it. If you remember your waterfall implementation, we have to implement all those things. Then we do testing. Testing was the 4th phase. If you remember, if you go to your note again, okay. So testing was the 4th phase. So that was late testing, basically. This is late. This is late testing, basically. Okay. So if you find the bug here, that means After doing all this, it's happening at the fourth phase. Okay, so that is late testing, basically. So, but what our testing principle is saying to us? The testing principle is saying that early testing is very, very cost effective because you will be able to find bugs at the initial phase of the development. Testing on time or before time. That's what you can even call it. Testing on time or before time. What we meant by before time, that is, you remember, because all this is interlinked together. That's why I hope you are taking your notes. Remember when I was discussing about the V model, classical V model. Okay? The V model. You guys still remember that V model, right? The BRD, the SRS, BRS, business requirement documentation, the SRS, system requirement documentation, something like that. Then the high level design, all those stuff like that. If you remember the V model, what you mean by before time, that is in the verification part. This is the verification part in V model. Okay? The verification part. And this is the validation part. I just want to bring it back so you remember what you did. So in verification part, the V model, there are two parts, the verification and the validation. Okay? There's two parts in verification and validation. So we are doing a lot of verifications here. We are doing a lot of verifications here. So we are doing a lot of walkthroughs, inspection, that is, you see, this is a BRD documentation, business requirement documentation, SRS, system requirement documentation, specification, whatever, high-level design, low-level design, then coding, then code, the actual of code they use for testing. They have a unit test coding, component testing. Remember every model. So actually, there are two phases here. We have the verification and the validation. So we are doing a lot of verifications. We are doing a lot of walkthroughs, inspections, the document. That is basically early testing. Okay. So by doing those early testing, you're going to find bugs at the very early stage. That's why the early testing is what is very, very early testing is always preferable for you to do early testing. That's what the top principle of software testing is saying. So by doing that, you have to eliminate a lot of projects, risk, analyzing and development integrations, all this stuff. So it helps you a lot in your testing. All right. So early testing is preferable. Any question? So that one is defect clustering. That's on that fourth principle, what defect clustering is. What is cluster? That's what is cluster. What do you mean by, forget about defect, what is cluster? What is cluster? What is the meaning of cluster? Okay, cluster is basically the part of the application, okay? Something that is clustered, glued together, okay? Is clustered together. So defect clustering is one of the four principles of software testing. Cluster is basically the part of the application. It is a small group. Your defects are clustered in few part of this application. Like, I will tell you about the 80-20 rule anyway. So majority of defect is clustered, right? So, okay, to explain this 80-20 rule, he said, 80-20 rule means 80% of the bugs you will find in 20% of the application. I repeat, 80% of the bugs you will find in the 20% of the application. These 20% are defect clusters. Okay, so like when we start doing testing, when you guys will start joining some companies, you're working as a QA analyst, you will find out that in one module, these are all modules like your inbox, your draft, you know, where I was talking about the RTM, I tried to explain all these modules, like 6 people are going to do manual testing, 4 people are going to do automation testing. They'll be testing all those things and finding bugs, and they'll be logging all those bugs. So now when people join your company, join your organization, you can see that this is a typical example of an e-commerce application right now, like that of your Amazon or eBay, and what website you getting stuff from online. So now you can say that when you start joining some companies in no distant time, when you start doing testing, okay, we will find out that in one module, this is a module, this module, pricing, review, these are all modules, all right? So you will see that in one module, we are getting a lot of bugs. You can see these bugs here. Just this alone, we have a lot of bugs. You can see how the line diagram is of much more longer than this one. So they log a lot of bugs in this particular module. So we're getting a lot of bugs. That is basically defect clustering. Okay, 80% of the bugs you will be finding in 20% of the application. That is what is known as defect clustering. This is one of the testing principles. Okay, so you understand what the 80-20 rule is talking about. 80% of the bugs you will find in 20% of the application. Then we have pesticide paradox. What that is, pesticide paradox. There's the first principle. What is the first principle said? Can someone remind me the first principle?
Testing is context dependent.
Context dependent. We're talking about context dependent. The second is exhaustive testing is not possible.
Mm-hmm.
The early testing, defect clustering, the 80-20 rule. Then we have the pesticide paradox. What does that say? It said, this principle said, if you keep on testing same test cases, you will start finding bugs. Resistance with same scenario, resistance with same test cases. Okay, that was the pesticide paradox is staying. If you keep on same test cases, you will start finding bugs. One test cases you created, if you keep on testing it circle by circle, you will find there is no bug in that test case. That is why updating that's why you have to revise your test cases, cover different areas, and updating your, this not here, updating your test data. Updating your what? Test data. Okay. So if you keep on testing one particular scenario all again, one circle by circle, you see that you start finding bugs. That's why resistance with same scenario, your test cases, revise your test cases, cover different areas, and updating your test data. All right, this is very important. That is why updating of test cases is very important. Test data is very, very important. So if we keep on executing same kind of thing, you will start finding bugs. Okay, that's what the pesticide paradox is saying. Okay, test data, always updating your test data. You should keep on updating your test data and revise your test cases after some time. Okay, revise your test cases after some time, update your test data, okay, cover certain areas, your test scenario, reset to the same test scenario, create more test scenarios so you can be able to, get more actual result from this particular, get more actual bugs from this particular system, this particular application. So you should keep on updating your test data and revise your test cases after some time. Otherwise, with the same kind of testing, with the same data and the same test cases, you will stop finding bugs in the application, in the system. That's what the pesticide paradox, one of the fifth principle of software testing is saying. So each and every word should be clear to you. This is a typical question asked in interviews. All right? Give you have any question? Yinka, do you have any question? What's the first principle of software testing? Context dependent. Exhaustive testing is not possible.
Early
Then
testing.
the early testing, then defect clustering, okay, pesticide paradox. Okay, keep on revising your test cases and covering different areas, visiting your test scenarios, create more test scenarios so you're able to find more bugs. So I think each and every word is it should be very clear to you this as it is right now. Because this is a typical interview questions. In interview questions, interviews, they will not ask you what is this and what is that. Question comes like this in interviews. Sometimes in interview, they ask you, how will you test an e-commerce application? How will you test an e-commerce application? Question will come like this. Okay, can someone answer, how can you test an e-commerce application? So that's what you ask in your interview questions, okay? They might just ask you, how will you test an e-commerce application? Question will come like this. They will not ask you, or anyone will ask you what is context dependent. Okay? Nobody going to ask you what is context dependent in interview. They ask you, how can you test an e-commerce application? So they will ask you, what are the difference in testing the banking application and testing the e-commerce application? Then you have to derive your answer from what we have discussed today. Context dependent. You have to know the context of what you are testing. The context of testing the e-commerce application is different from that of testing the banking application. So you derive your answer from context dependent. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to, how to do it's aligned, the banking application, what is aligned to the banking application, what is aligned to the e-commerce application. So no one will ask what is context dependent in the interview. How will you test the banking application and the testing the e-commerce application? All right. Then they will ask you in next 2 hours, we have production release. In next 2 hours, we have production release. How will you do the testing? In next 2 hours, we have production release. How will you do the testing? Then you will derive your answer from what? Exhaustive testing is not possible. I'm discussing interview question here, actually. Okay. So another question that can ask you, another question is that can be, why do we need to update our test cases and our test data on a daily manner? They will not ask you.
Persistent paradox.
They will not ask you what is persistent paradox in interview. Okay. So why we need to update our test cases? Sometimes we ask you, why do we need to update our test cases, test data after some amount of time? Then you develop your question from the answer from here. Persistent paradox. Another, they will ask you again, they say, another is why you should not do automation of this very module again. why
Defect.
you should not do automation of this very module. Then, you do have a question from where? Context what? Dependent. Because the UI keep on changing. If I were to automate, I won't get the virtual results. Then they will ask you again, when do you start testing? This is a classical interview question. Even they ask me myself.
As
When
early
do you
as
start
possible.
testing?
As early as
Then
possible.
you answer your early testing is possible. Early testing is very good. The answer will come from the principle of early testing. Early testing is always good. You will say we will start the verification of the document. We will go through walkthroughs, inspections. From that, you derive your answers from these 7 principles of software testing. These 7 principles of software testing gives you a lot of interview questions. Remember, the 7 principles you have, remember these 7 principles. Remember, they have that in the back of your mind before answering any interview questions. So the last, not the 5th, is the one we call the 6th and 7th principle. The 6th and 7th principle says testing shows presence of defects, absence of error is fallacy. That's the 6th principle. The 6th and 7th principle, they are just the same. Okay? Testing shows presence of defects. 7 say absence or error is fallacy. Okay? So what this 6th and 7th rule is saying that the 6th and 7th rule say testing shows presence of defect and absence of error is fallacy. These 6th and 7th are related to each other. Not present does not mean absent. Because I've given you a bug in, because I've given you bug in one particular module, it just shows error is present. Okay, so if I say there is no error, basically as a testing team or a test QA or analyst, you should never say no bug. No, you never say no bug in the system. You should never say, it's why I use this word. It's not possible. Absence of error is fallacy, means that there is always bug present in the system. As a QA team and as a testing people, you have to make sure client is not getting any kind of bug. As you can see this diagram, I think it's so funny. It said all cats have 4 legs. I have 4 legs, therefore I'm cats. Every cat has a 4 leg, and dog also have a 4 leg. So dog will now become a cat. Is that possible? So absence of error is a fallacy. Just because you are saying there is no error I found in the system, you will not say there is no bug in the system. Bugs are always present in the system. Testing only shows presence of defects, shows presence of defects. So testing shows the presence of defects. Just because you have tested the application, it does not mean you have found each and every bug. The relation for these terms comes from that's what I call exhaustive testing. It's not possible. Okay. So the relationship to that comes to what I mean by that exhaustive testing is not possible. So if you remember the second principle, which we just discussed, because not possible, therefore, absence of what? Error is what is a fallacy. Okay, don't see there's no bug in the system. So that is all for today. Before we end it, I don't know if I have any question before we go into finish up for what we have in the plates.
Sally,
People used to tell me, yes.
I want to ask a question. Why should as a QA or as a tester, should we abide to the principle of software testing? Why should we abide by that principle?
Yes, because it gives you the actual testing. Okay. Not that you are abiding, you are following what it is to have an actual result. You are following the actual principles, okay, to make the clients have the actual products without any defects. Okay. So that's why this
Okay,
principle I abide. Okay.
okay,
So
okay.
you analyze things, but while analyzing things and the principles have to follow. Like the test, they said you have only 2 hours to hit the production server. What kind of testing you have to be doing? Exhaustive testing is not possible. I have to prioritize my test cases, do the risk assessment of that particular application, how users are going to behave when they use this application. I'll do the risk assessment of it. And prioritizing the ones is more important for them to use. Because on your application, you have your login page on your application, your username and password. And I produce this particular application. This application I produce doesn't have any username and password. I just saw terms and condition. Does it have an impact to it will have a very impact for the users. What are they going to do with this particular application that you just built right now? Because these are the main priority ones, so they can be able to log into that page. So you put in your text and condition, the footer links here, the privacies and all those things doesn't really matters right now. But those login text box for you to Google page, for you to type in your Google search is very important. So that will answer your question.
Okay, correct.
So people usually get convinced of this QA and QC. Okay. People are asking me QC, QA. You go to your LinkedIn, you go to your Indeed.com to search for jobs and QA, QC. You can see people get confused. They say, what is QA? What is QC? So you can see this is a subset. All right. Now you can find that when you go to your, I don't think I have gone to search. What do you see on your search on LinkedIn, on your most job portal? You can see you have that each and every companies we have these days, they hired for quality assurance engineer. They don't hire for software testing engineer. Okay. So the most common openings you see these days when you start going to the market, when you go to the market, so the common openings you see these days is the quality assurance engineer. Okay. So QA is the subset. You can see the subset. The QA is a subset of everything you have in this sub-diagram. The QA is a subset of software testing. Now, testing here, testing means whatever I have the software tester, okay? So in this testing, like testing means whatever I have been given, suppose my development team says you have to test 2 + 2 = 5. So as a testing guy, okay, so as a testing guy here, I will not question it. I will not question the requirement. When I'm doing my testing, I will not question the requirements. Whatever is coming from the BRD documentation, okay, the business requirement documentation from business people, I will not question all those things. I will accept it blindly, okay? I will accept it blindly. Then I will test it. I will say it's fine. Then 2 + 2 is fine. All right, that's what It is good. So now, what is quality control? Okay, what is quality control? Quality control is basically all the testing effort comes under quality control. All this testing effort comes under quality control. The QC guy. Okay, I'm controlling the quality. I hope you get my point. I'm controlling the quality. I'm not assuring the quality. What is the difference between these two? Like when I show you the BRD documentation when I doing the RTM, okay? So whatever the BRD told me, I have tested it and it's working fine. But as a quality assurance, I will do it. I will do a lot of things that is not mentioned in the BRD itself. I will work as someone that will enrich the customer. Experience for this application. So suppose in the BRD, a text box should accept like this text box should accept like 30 characters. Okay? It should accept like 30 characters. But as a QA team, I will question why only 30 characters? Because I found out that when I am using this application related to this, I found that people can even type in as much as 50 characters. Why not make this text box of something that can accept 50 characters? So I will question the requirement from the business people as a QA phase. You know, in business meeting, when it comes to software SDLC, you see that the QA is always there. Okay. So quality assurance is very, very important. In software testing, that's in SDLC, from its phase, we have gathering requirements, creating FSD, implementation, then comes testing. So when you will be doing quality control and testing, you will be doing it in the fourth phase. But when you are doing quality assurance, you are part of the team right from the first phase. Like when you guys will be doing Agile, next topic coming forth, we're doing Agile in Agile environment. I told you I'll give you some glimpse about Agile in demo class. I'll give you some demo about Agile. You know, most companies, 90% of the companies these days, they go on Agile as a means of deploying their software. All right. So in Agile environment, right now, every company is hiring for quality assurance engineer. Every company is hiring for quality assurance engineer these days. Quality should be good. Assurance should be there. Assurance, what is the meaning of assurance? Making sure I'm making sure my quality is really good. That's the assurance. You are assuring the product. Okay. So these days, companies don't hire for QC or testing or what, they are assured for quality analyst, quality assurance engineer, someone to assure that product is good. Okay. So that's what the difference between QC and QA. I want you guys to understand that because people get it more confused. So I just want to clarify before we end the class for today. So you have any question? Anyone have any question before we round up the class? You can see right here, you can see the difference between QA and QC. It is a process which deliberates providing assurance that quality requests will be achieved. The QC is a process which deliberates on fulfilling the quality request. Okay.
That's
So that's the difference between QA and QC. Okay, if you don't have any question, we're going to wrap it up for today. And Konya, you have any 30 minutes to spend? Or we do the class tomorrow?
hello, sir.
Yes.
Good evening, sir. Do I have 30 minutes? But I can't. Yes, I have.
Yeah, what of tomorrow? Do you have anything or you going to work tomorrow?
No,